Okay, people, here I am, John Manimus, presidential candidate. Not a very likely one to get elected, but officially a presidential candidate with the Real Democracy Party. And I have to, wake myself up and get all excited here because I have a September surprise. That's it. John Manimus and Henry Jackson and the Real Democracy Party have a September surprise that should have an effect on the 2020 election. It's very simple. It's based on constitutional law, specifically constitutional law, which was spelled out in very clear detail on July 6th by the Supreme Court in a case known as Chafalo versus Washington. Now that name Chafalo is capital Chiafalo versus Washington, meaning the state of Washington. It's connected with another case from Colorado versus Baca, B-A-C-A. So some presidential electors brought up this question again, which has been brought up before. It looks like the Constitution says that the presidential electors kind of ponder a decision about who makes the best presidential candidate, and then they cast their ballot based on their own personal judgment and individual thought. And the Supreme Court said, no, we've never ruled that before, and we're not going to rule that today. I mean, the arguments were heard in May of this year, and the decision came out July 6th, 9-0. All 9 justices agreed unanimously, and what they said in their decision is that the state legislatures control absolutely who their presidential electors can vote for and who they cannot vote for. That's right. Your state legislature instructs the presidential electors of your state who to vote for. Now, by custom in state law, we have elections, and you see the name of presidential candidates on the ballot, and you check off if you're voting. Hope you're registering and you're going to vote, and you select the presidential candidate that you want. So the voters in your state play a role, but that's because the legislature has a law that they're enforcing. Whoever gets the most votes, not necessarily more than half of all the votes, but more than any other candidate. So it could be 48% or 45% or 40% even. You could have an election where there's 3 presidential candidates, 2 of them get 30%, and 1 gets 40%, and that candidate who got 40% got the most votes, what they call the plurality. So they get all your state's electoral votes. But the legislature can pass other laws. The legislature doesn't have to say that, whoever gets the most votes of the people is going to get all the state's electoral votes. They can pass a different law, a bit different rule about who the electors can vote for and who they can't vote for. And that means any state could pass a law regarding the moral character of the candidates. They can pass a law that says the electors can't vote for a candidate of poor moral character, like someone who's been convicted of a felony within the last 20 years. We won't count it if it was 45 years ago when they were 14 years old or 20 even. If in the past 20 years you've been convicted of a felony offense, can't get the electoral votes of our state. And guess what? How about if the candidate has been impeached by the House of Representatives? That candidate cannot get our state's electoral votes. Prohibited. Can't cast your ballot for that candidate. Because impeachment means you fail to enforce the laws faithfully and or you fail to protect the public health and safety. That's what impeachment is about. And Trumpolini has been impeached. So the states can literally pass a law anytime before November 3rd, a law that says electoral votes of our state cannot be cast for a candidate who's been impeached. That's my September surprise. That's our September surprise. Small group of people. We've been working so hard to encourage people to vote, to help the people of this country to make intelligent voting choices and get good people into power. And we're going to continue that. Anyway, that's the September surprise. I put it in a letter to Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. That's been sent out. I also sent a copy of a letter to Governor Andrew Cuomo of my state, New York State, explaining this September surprise, this fact that any state legislature can pass a law that says the Electoral College, the presidential electors of our state, cannot vote for a candidate who's been impeached. And that's a real possibility in 15 states who are controlled completely by the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party controls both chambers of the legislature and the governorship, the state house. In 5 other states, the Democratic Party controls both chambers of the legislature, but they have a Republican governor. Those 20 states, if they pass such a law, would be controlling 230 electoral votes, and that would help prevent Trumpolini from being reelected, which is really, really important. It requires every legal means. The Democratic Party should use every legal means to prevent Trumpolini from being reelected. And the situation we're in here, people, is very, very dangerous and crazy and of concern throughout the world, because there is a real possibility and likelihood that this will be another close election. We have 60 to 70 million dumb voters who always vote, and they could vote the same as they did in 2016, vote for Trumpolini, and it could be that neither Joe Biden nor Donald Trump gets the 270 electoral votes they need to win in the first stage. What happens then? We go on to the second stage, and the second stage is the most undemocratic process you can imagine, and it's required by the Constitution. Each state gets 1 vote. That means 26 of the least populous states, who tend to be Republican or are controlled by the Republican Party, could re-elect Donald Trump with less, perhaps far less than 40% of the population. A lot of Americans think that the people should elect the president, but that's not the way it works, and it has never worked that way. The president is not elected by the people. The president is actually elected by the states. It's just that the states have laws making it look like, the president got elected by the people. But that's not really the way it works when you consider that you don't even have to have a majority of the people's vote to get the electoral votes of your state. You just have to have more votes than the other presidential candidates. And there are several other candidates, what we call third-party candidates, who are running. And who knows? So if we go to that second stage and Donald Trump is reelected by the 26 least populous states, less than 40% of the people in this country, I think that will make people so upset, so confused, so angry, that there's a very high risk that we will have another civil war. And that's why the Democratic Party should feel obligated, should feel called to use every legal means to stop Trumpolini from being reelected. Democrats are saying, even Republicans are saying, lots of people are saying, this man must not be reelected. Our democracy will collapse. We will no longer be the United States of America. We will no longer be a democracy if he's reelected. That sounds like a pretty serious problem that we should avoid by every legal means. That's the September surprise, brought to you by John Manimus and the Real Democracy Party. Please get the word out. Make sure everybody knows that Trumpolini can be stopped.